Everybody, welcome back to another episode of Unleashed Alchemy. Tamara Tamu, bringing you spiritual wisdom that is going to allow you to bring the unseen into the seen. Okay, that is going to allow you to live the quantum sovereign life that you were put here to live. So listen, we're going to talk about something very, very important. I brought this up in maybe 3 or 4 videos previously. I don't know. Look at my list of videos. I have over 500. Okay. But I was talking about chaos energy. All right. And I talked about it on the surface, touched on a few things, very empowering, showing you how you don't have to be afraid of anything that seems to be chaotic in your environment. All right. And so I asked the question, if you wanted me to elaborate a little bit more on it. And I did get a comment. I wish I could remember or go back and remember the username. So thank you. If you're watching this, thank you for your comment. And the individual posted, yes, please elaborate. So here we are elaborating on this. Now, we're going to talk about chaos energy again. All right. And I'm breaking this up into 4 parts. So in this first part, we're going to talk about what chaos energy is. So let's get into it. Now, we live in this physical world, right? We live in this physical world. And when you have stepped into your quantum being and you begin to remember who you are as goddess, you start to remember who you are as God. It can feel as if you are living in between multiple worlds. Can that feel chaotic? Of course it can. So that's an example. Now, in this physical world, there's disorder. There is disorder. There is unpredictability. Yet, there is an undercurrent that's not seen to the physical. It's not seen to the physical eye, yet it is available to you. That undercurrent, that energy is available to you. And it is available to you to keep you from getting swallowed up by the unpredictable nature that is chaos energy. Got that? Let's move on. So this is going to be an interesting thing that I'm going to use. Okay. I am going to illustrate this further. I'm going to use the example of winemaking. Because we all, just like we understand money, just like we understand love, just like we understand sex, we understand alcohol, don't we? Okay. If you're watching this, you probably have had a glass of wine at some point in your life, whether you were underage or of age. Okay. So I'm going to use the example of winemaking. So pay attention. Now, before I get into this, I do have a course in my magic school called Water into Wine, where I go into this even in more detail. So if you are not part of the magic school, it is a monthly membership. Go to unleashedalchemy.com, shameless plug, all right? Because I am here to liberate you, all right? So winemaking, it relies on grapes. Yes, yes. And we know with grapes, you don't have to walk into a vineyard to see this. We can walk into a grocery store and we see all variations of grapes, different colors, probably even different textures, different tastes. That is the nature of a grape. That is its existence. Variations of grapes are due to weather, the climate, the soil, and among other variables as well, okay? All of those variables what's the word I'm looking for? They impact the unpredictable nature of a grape. All right, so let's keep going. But winemakers find a beautiful way to work with this unpredictability of a grape to produce a fine product. They don't try to fight it. They don't try to fight the unpredictable nature of a grape. What they do is they don't resist it. They work with it. How? By acknowledging that the unpredictable nature is there. And they use techniques to control the process of winemaking, being comfortable with the fact that some of that unpredictability is going to show up in the final product. They're not afraid of that unpredictability to show up in the final product because they intuitively know that there's going to be balance and harmony in the final product. So the key thing to remember here is that the winemakers don't resist. They don't resist the unpredictability of the grape. They don't try. And when I said they come up with processes to control the unpredictability, they're not trying to control the nature of the grape. They're trying to work with it to find balance. Are you following me now? Okay. So this is where you see the integration, the blend, and the balance of the raw nature of the grapes. The raw nature of the grapes, we can equate that to the raw nature of our emotions, the raw nature of chaotic energy. And we can use that, just like winemakers do, with grapes to create harmony in a final, beautiful product, in a final resolution. So let's continue on with the illustration of winemaking. So what you will see with wine, what do we see? If you've ever been to a wine tasting events, you will never see so many variations of wines. There are countless. There are countless varieties. There's differences in the color, the taste, the sweetness. How many varieties of wine do you see on the market right now? You cannot count them. You cannot count them. So let's go back to the blend and integration. The blend and the integration is a way of managing the chaos, working with it instead of trying to control it away, wish it away, hope it away, spell it away, manifest it away, ritual it away. You work with it because you are not afraid of it. You know that there is an essence and a power in that raw energy that you can use to work for you in the most beautiful way. So, the integration brings harmony. Even when the final product has elements of that chaos in it, you still have a desired result that works in your favor. So, what we see using the winemaking process as an illustration, as a metaphor, you can see the power of harnessing chaotic energy versus being consumed by it. You acknowledge that it exists. You don't wish it away as something that is not a part of you. And this is when we start talking about emotions. And I'm going to end on this first part here. But I want to say this before I end and before we go to the next part. This is why you cannot ignore or be afraid of, what we would label as low vibe energy. You can't be afraid of your own anger. You cannot be afraid to face your own fear. You cannot be afraid of any trauma. You cannot be afraid of any hate that you feel. You cannot be afraid of any agitation or frustration that you feel. That's raw energy. Yes, can it feel chaotic? Yes. And going back to what I said at the top of this video, when you are recognizing and stepping into who you are as a sovereign being, you can feel like you are living between worlds. That can feel chaotic. Acknowledge that. That is where transformation is. That is where your elevation is. That is where you move and you begin to find harmony in that. Okay? So let me know what your takeaways are in this first episode of how to deal with chaotic energy, what it is, and how we can use it for our own benefit in the most beautiful way. All right, until next time, cheers.